Welcome. Hello. Welcome back to the Dr. Crocko channel. How is everybody doing? Do we have a couple people here already? Are notifications going out? I know we're not showing up in the sub feed. We're just going to have to deal with it. Looks like the chat on the screen wants to work half of the time. I don't know what is going on. I know we are here, and that's the most important part of it. If we can't get the chat to work for some reason, I'm going to try it a couple more times. It was obviously on the screen when you guys got here. Then it wanted to go off basically 30 seconds after I start the stream. Excuse me, guys. I hope everybody is doing well. Looks like we got about 50 people here already. That's not bad for not having any, not being in the sub feed. Now the chat seems to be going out of control. Hopefully this just kind of fixes itself throughout this stream. All right, it seems to be showing up and catching back up. We'll see what happens. Yeah, not too shabby for just sending out a bunch of links and hoping people are sharing the stream. I'd like to say welcome to all my loyal people because for the most part, that's who's going to be here. I want to get this right out of the way. I am not crying about censorship. I am not complaining about what's happening. We expect it to happen and we were prepared. That's why we have 3 different channels. Yet they're doing it to all 3 of my channels. So in that regard, didn't really do anything. Now I understand people got the notification. The problem is, it's not that some notifications aren't going out. There's always a percentage of notifications. The problem is people that sign into YouTube like normal, you know, the people that watch me, they go to their sub feed to see what's on. It's not showing up there. So even when I'm live, even when I set the reminder, that's how most people find me streaming. The people that are subscribed to me, they're like, oh, Davey's on at midnight. Oh, Davey's on right now. Let me click on it. When you take that option away, that's a huge chunk of the viewership. So we'll do our best. Like I said, not a big deal. I'm going to record this and put it up on my other channels and my alternatives, and we'll just deal with the issues. Now, we're in a time where there's a lot of panic. A lot of things are going on with that crazy virus. So we need a place to step away and just have a little fun and jump into the topics that are a little conspiratorial, spooky, creepy, downright bizarre. Tonight's topic, guys, is Laurel Canyon, Lookout Mountain, the CIA's infiltration of rock bands. Some of you guys may know about this. You may have heard of Laurel Canyon and the Air Force base that was out there where they did propaganda films. But we're just going to take our way through that. Now, this is a hard time for everybody. As I said, I am out of work for a couple of weeks, so the plan was really stream my ass off, really put myself into this content, really go full bore at trying to grow the channels. So at the same time when I'm trying to do that, and they take away my ability to be seen by even my own subscribers, that means I'm definitely not getting new viewers. If my own subscribers can't see it, you can trust we're not getting any new viewers. So it sucks for growth. And at this time, it's hard to expect people can support what you're doing. And anybody that does is definitely going above and beyond. And we thank those people that are, some people have sent donations in, and I'm very thankful. I'm very humbled by it, and I appreciate it, guys. I want it known, and I just wanted to tell you guys from the bottom of my heart, it's all appreciated. So with that said, we're going to start off the stream just by kind of explaining what Laurel Canyon is, and I will put the links in the chat for you if anybody does want to support the channels and what we're doing. I know people are saying I had a hard time finding this. I understand. I'm doing my best to notify people. I really am. I can't do any more than what I'm doing. If you have any other sites that you guys are on that you want to get notified on other than Twitter or Discord, please tell me and I will make sure I put the link up there. I'm putting it on my community tabs. I made a video earlier to tell you guys. I'm really doing all I can. So it's good to see L1978. Good to see Andy Random Edits. I see a lot of people here, familiar faces. Like I said, it's only going to be our subscribers, I think. If anybody is new here, please let me know. Kim S. says, you're doing great, Davey. It's not you. Oh, I know. It's someone left a comment earlier. Well, you shouldn't make videos on this and maybe your numbers wouldn't dip. literally people can't see that I'm on. Like, do you not understand? If it was an organic thing where people were leaving and like they didn't like what I was doing, trust me, I would just say it. Like, damn, a lot of people left. If people go to their subscriber page and they can't click on the video, they can't watch the video. I mean, it's a very easy thing. It's not rocket science. So as I said, we're going to be talking about Laurel Canyon. Some of you guys may know the work of Michael Walker, Dave McGowan. These are two researchers that have talked about Lookout Mountain, Laurel Canyon, the CIA, rock artists like Frank Zappa, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix. There's other musical artists from that time of the peace and love, flower power, that were connected to the military through their parents. And we'll be breaking all of that down. This was the time of the civil rights movement after the 60s. This was the time of COINTELPRO. You had the CIA infiltrating a bunch of groups and making hubs in San Francisco where they would test these stuff like acid and LSD on people. They would set up what they would call health centers, but really bring people in to dose them. We're going to break all of that down. If you were here last week, we talked about Haight-Ashbury. It's a place in California that was basically the epicenter of where they were doing these they were doing these setup scenarios where they would dose people with LSD. This was all handed down from the CIA and the MK Ultra program. So we're just going to start off kind of explaining what Laurel Canyon is. Then I'll talk a little bit about Lookout Mountain. I'll play some clips from the old Air Force laboratory they had up there. If you guys saw my video on Jared Leto the other day, then you guys know that he ended up buying this property. So we got a lot to uncover here. So pretty much every government uses culture as propaganda. So it should not be surprising that the United States did so throughout the Cold War. As a superpower involved in a multi-pronged proxy war for the hearts and minds of each and every inhabitant of Earth. How could it not? And the CIA was behind most of it. While Hoover and his FBI men were busy red-baiting, tapping phones, compiling dossiers on about any American with even the most minuscule of leftist leanings, and you guys can go and check FBI files. They have them on all of these, quote, rock stars. The CIA was simultaneously funding and promoting art. And you guys may have heard of this, modern art being a CIA program, a CIA PSYOP. See people saying flower power. Yeah, all of this stuff is, it's not as organic as we once thought. But they were funding and promoting modern art of the time of the same people that the FBI was watching. So the same people the FBI was putting dossiers on, the CIA was helping fund these people. Meanwhile, Joe McCarthy was attacking anything and everything with even the slightest hint of communism. This was Reds under the bed, red baiting people. Once even raising a ruckus when he found a citation, mind you, to book by avowed Marxist Corliss Lamont in the bibliography of an army publication. At the same time that such insanity was sweeping across the government, the CIA was paying for the publication of books and articles by plenty of ex-communists and others with leftist-leaning and Marxist past. The CIA showed a willingness since its inception to fund whoever made sense as a tool, regardless of the political climate and despite the politics of those funded. This is when we get into the 60s. And you hear about the CIA working with rock stars, creating the movement, creating the culture, and using these major rock artists that are putting on concerts like Woodstock and are at the zeitgeist and at the center of the peace, love, and everybody's free movement. You see the CIA behind them. So we're going to investigate the shadowy conspiracy that led Jared Leto to buy the nuclear bomb film studio of Laurel Canyon. Now, Jared Leto is not a part of this. He just bought the place and something's weird's going on with him. We're going back to the 60s and 70s. We don't have time for failed actors like Jared Leto. Shout out to anybody that ended up sharing the stream. Definitely appreciate that, guys. Hey, we got about 100 people. Got about 100 people here so far, so, I mean, that's okay. that's literally doing better than my main channel. I really put the work into getting the word out on this one, so I thank you guys. And I'll make sure to, this will be a full breakdown of Laurel Canyon. So in 1947, the U.S. military establishes a secret film unit headquartered, deep in Laurel Canyon from the Lookout Mountain Air Force Station. And you guys I'll pull up some pictures of this in a minute. And this is where you had needed to have top secret clearance. There was about 250 filmmakers there, and they would travel the world documenting nuclear bomb blast from as close as 2 miles away, if you believe in that kind of stuff. Now, in 1963, the covert film studio closes after the world's nuclear powers all agree to move testing underground. In 1971, actor Jared Leto is born, doesn't matter. There was some weird connections between Jared Leto and this Lookout Mountain, but we're just kind of getting a timeline here. So you have 1963, supposedly this place closes up. Jared Leto buys it in 2013 from a firm that turned it into a rehab center. And then he just has it as this little compound with his weird little cult. But back then, there's always been speculation about the power of music. Heavy metal groups are routinely accused of encouraging murder and mayhem. Elvis Presley was at one time accused of destroying our nation's youth. Even someone like Plato back in the day emphasized the power of song. But what if the U.S. government utilized popular music in order to form a different society? The Laurel Canyon, written by Dave McGowan in 2008, claims just that. He believes the 1960s folk scene was created by the CIA and used to brainwash the masses. This is right up our alley, guys. This is kind of the perfect story for a spooky Sunday. Now consider this. Laurel Canyon was a neighborhood in the Hollywood area of Los Angeles, and back in the 1960s, it was the place for counterculture and the hippie movement. And we've talked about this before. You had people in the MK Ultra program like Dr. Jolin West. You had other people that were part of this program. They would set up health centers. They were handing out LSD to people and testing what would happen to them when they were on it. And this is how a lot of the culture got started, of this free love and drugs and peace and love, man. Like, it wasn't organic. This was helped out by some of these government programs. It was the place for counterculture and the hippie movement. Musicians like Joni Mitchell, Jim Morrison, Frank Zappa, the Byrds, and David Crosby were hanging out, writing music, just engulfing themselves in the culture. Drugs were common and easily available. Obviously, we know why. Free love was abundant and encouraged. Between the Vietnam War and the racial turmoil in the United States, and that'll bring us to Charles Manson and Helter Skelter and his ties to the CIA. It seemed like a magical haven where attractive hippies could get groovy and make sweet protest songs. But there was actually something a little more sinister in the Hollywood Hills. About 5 minutes out from Laurel Canyon, there was a secret facility run by the U.S. government called the Lookout Mountain Air Force Base. Among other things, it was used as a film studio for the military and research nuclear testing. Hollywood stars like Gregory Peck, Bob Hope, Jimmy Stewart, many others often narrated for these films and were sworn to secrecy. Well, Robert Stack was already there. I'm a little hurt they didn't mention my buddy of Unsolved Mysteries, Robert Stack, but I got a video, like these old school videos that came out of there. I think you guys will enjoy. So combine Lookout Mountain with the almost completely true allegations that the U.S. government was researching mind control via Nazi scientists, testing LSD on innocent people, and generally getting up to sketchy-ass stuff, and you've got yourself a great conspiracy. Now, McGowan, the investigator, who passed away, but he did great work on this, he has Jim Morrison, Frank Zappa, Stephen Stills of Stills, Crosby, and Nash. They were all sons of extremely high-ranking military officials. They were also members of the Laurel Canyon hippie community and were incredibly popular among youths of America. The government was testing mind control on unsuspecting innocents. Members of the so-called hippie movement were planted by the government and used to subvert the culture with what they were, putting into their music subliminally and just outright telling people. So we're going to dive into some of the videos and kind of and we'll have a little clip from Dave McGowan kind of explaining what Lookout Mountain was. So let me pull those up for you guys. How's everybody doing? It's good to see everybody.
I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. I've been reading the book. I'm very excited.
Let me make sure I get the right timestamp here. I see L1978. I see Andy. I think I saw Mersh was up in the chat. Good to see everybody, man. It is really nice, and I hope everyone's doing well. I know everybody's on lockdown. We just want to have a fun night hanging out, so I'm glad to see everybody here. All right, so this is Dave McGowan, the researcher that wrote the book Laurel Canyon and the Electric Pyramid, and he'll just kind of explain what Lookout Mountain was.
And why is it on your show? So I want to go all the way back to something that Dave, and I live here in LA. You and I discussed, the fact that we live in LA earlier today on the phone. And you know what? This Lookout Mountain Laboratory, Dave, we've got to talk about this because this is a strange facility that I had never heard of until I read your book. And when we start weaving all of these tales later in the show about potential ties to these rock stars, to military intelligence, covert ops, this to me is a good way to kind of get people hip to this idea that, look, Laurel Canyon was not just fairies and unicorns and rainbows and moonbeams and all that. Well, maybe there's some moonbeams, but let's talk about Lookout Mountain Laboratory. Explain to people what that was and how that came about.
Yeah, I had never heard of it either. I've dug pretty deep into the conspiracy literature and, poked my head into some pretty dark corners. And sure. I had never seen or heard any mention of this facility that's, right here in the Laurel Canyon, right in the LA neighborhood. And that's one of the things that really inspired me to look into this whole story, was the reference to it that Michael Walker threw out in his Laurel Canyon book. And just kind of as a little throwaway fact, it was literally like one sentence. He was talking about something that didn't quite fit the hippie peace and love vibe. And then he threw in just, parenthetically also not seeming to fit in was the covert military installation.
Right.
And then he just moved right on. And I'm like, whoa, dude, back up there. That's not the kind of thing you just toss on the table and then walk away from,
That is not a crumb.
Yeah. What are you talking about here? And so I started looking into it, and sure enough, there was indeed a covert military installation in full operation, beginning well before the 60s, music scene, and carrying on through at least until 1969 when it was officially decommissioned. But some reports claim that it was active even longer than that. But it absolutely was in operation during the canyon's heyday. From when the Byrds first kind of kicked off the folk rock revolution in 1965, I think, through at least 1969, and all of these hippie, peace, love, and understanding types just were all literally huddled around a covert military installation that.
So that's Dave McGowan kind of giving kind of a precursor to what this was. And I'll be pulling up some videos of the actual military base itself and what was going on there. They actually put out like these instructional videos at the time explaining what they were doing and how they made the propaganda film. So I think these will be enjoyable for us because these date back to the 50s and 60s, and they talk about, we have this celebrity kind of recreating a war scene, and we have this guy explaining to the children why we need to go here. And it's just really funny because at the time they thought this was great to let everybody know. Looking back on it, we can obviously get a good picture of the clandestine nature of the program. And this kind of reminds me of like a great coast to coast topic, or just a great conspiracy that you hear in interviews that used to be on YouTube. Now all the videos are removed. Everything's either privated or channel's been terminated. These are just great, fun conspiracies to look into. These don't harm anybody. These are just great. So I'm going to pull up some of these old videos here, and you guys, it's got that classic film start. These are nice. And you can get a good look at the facilities.
Command, and home of the 1352nd Photographic Group, containing facilities to accomplish all phases of photography. Staffed by both civilian and military filmmakers of the United States Air Force. The administrative function is housed in a portion of this modern building in the San Fernando Valley.
Hold on, we have to make sure everybody's authorized to see this. This is for official use only, guys. Only authorized personnel. So make sure you guys have your Q clearance with you.
15-minute courier drive from the main gate. The organization's mission: photographic documentation of Air Force activities, the production of scientific films, technical films, training films, informational motion pictures, for the Atomic Energy Commission, for joint Army and Air Force exercises, for civil defense, for the Air Force, as well as other government agencies. Films requiring animation may get their start in this division. The artist inking this cell is only one of an experienced team with special skills in all phases of technical animation. The completed cell, as it is finally photographed here, must often effectively portray an abstract or extremely complex idea, the workings of intricate mechanisms or a cross-section of an atomic weapon. The camera division is completely equipped for both stage and location photography. In just a moment, we'll see some clips from documentary coverage and the many productions that have passed through this laboratory. Laboratory operations require a high degree of skill and scientific control to process the many types of film handled here and exposed by not only our production unit, but others dispersed around the world. Sound requirements are fulfilled in a completely rebuilt and modern department.
Look at how modern we are, guys. This was the groundbreaking technology of the time, or at least what they showed to the public. And they really just like explain it to you like, this is how we create the propaganda films, guys. No worries here.
And policy to show how both planes and missiles are needed for our defense. Newscaster Walter Cronkite introduced and narrated another of our films, Alert in the Pacific, showing how and where the Air Force is deployed. In a series of people-to-people films, we are also helping the East to meet the West. A film entitled Blood Brothers, produced to help explain Philippine culture to American servicemen, was introduced by Ambassador Romulo. This portion of the film was shot on the beach in Manila. The local fire department produced the rain, a Navy landing craft created the waves, an Air Force helicopter produced the wind, the Marines supplied the amphibian duck, American and Philippine actors played the parts, and Lookout Mountain technicians directed the action. This combined effort added up to a dramatic and interesting motion picture. Screen actor Glenn Ford starred in Taiwan, Isle of Freedom. And from Taiwan, we moved on to make a similar film in Korea, explaining Koreans to Americans.
Oh, and I'm sure they did a great job with that. Let us tell you about these other countries that we want to, go to war with and that we hate. Let us teach you the ways with our famous actors of the day. So, you get an idea of what they're doing here. And I have one more of these older style videos. Then we'll start kind of getting into the rock scene of Laurel Canyon and breaking down that aspect of it. And we'll get into a little bit about what the CIA was doing in certain parts of California. We touched on this a few days ago in the Hangout stream, talking about the LSD sex houses, Operation Midnight Climax, and how they would set up brothels to basically have what, Johns show up thinking they were gonna have sex with this woman, and then they would dose them with LSD and record the results. So a lot of stuff is going on at this time. The CIA is swirling around all these people because they see that that's the popular zeitgeist of the time, the hippie movement, the peace and free love movement. Official use, guys. Periscope film. Classic music, like it. Hopefully that's not too loud on you guys.
Lookout Mountain Air Force Station, a photographic installation of the Aerospace Audiovisual Service, Military Airlift Command, and home of the 1352nd Photographic Group. For joint Army and Air Force exercises, for civil defense, for the Air Force, as well as other government agencies. Films requiring animation may get their start, breaking the language barrier. We have photographed Robert Stack, star of The Untouchables. Vic Morrow, Sergeant Saunders of Combat, another popular TV series. Kathy Crosby for a commercial on nursing. Bob Hope and Jerry Colonna with a pitch on physical fitness. And James Arness, Marshall Dillon of the Gunsmoke series. They appeared in Department of the Army films, portions of which were shot by Lookout Mountain crews.
So you have this huge installation up in Laurel Canyon that's using actors and the popular culture to make videos for the military to be pushed out as propaganda. So while you have that swirling around, you have the CIA subverting movements like the civil rights movement, getting into the music business, creating the modern art movement. You can see how these things start connecting, and then we'll get into the ties, the complete family ties. Some of these major rock stars like Jim Morrison, John Denver, Frank Zappa, their fathers being high level in the military. You can start seeing how this all comes together. So just going to pull up kind of a few articles at a time here, guys. You know how we've been doing it. I try not to overload it with a bunch of stuff at once. Just pull up a few things and we'll kind of go through, we'll just do it as we go here. Hope everyone's enjoying the show so far. I really appreciate everybody showing up. And I'm sure you guys are happy just to have some non-corona entertainment. Just kind of take your mind off of everything. Sunday night, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. That's what Spooky Sundays are for, and I'm glad you guys are along for the ride. Episode 20, guys. It's kind of crazy that we've gotten to episode 20. Who knew when we started it would really catch on and we'd have this great thing every week. So I'm very happy about that. So you can go back to California in the 60s when the CIA ran a LSD sex house in San Francisco. Now, San Francisco is not doing too much better now, but you can start seeing the subversion of the culture. On an elegant dead-end block, and this is an area called Haight-Ashbury in California. On the north side of Telegraph Hill is 225 Chestnut Street, a swanky modernist building with a panoramic bay view. It's about the last place you would have expected a clandestine CIA program during the Cold War. Yet from 1955 to 1965, the building was the site of Operation Climax, a top-secret mind control program in which the CIA agents used hookers to lure unsuspecting Johns from North Beach bars to what they called the, quote, pad, then dosed the men with LSD and observed the X-rated going-ons through a two-way mirror while sitting on a portable toilet swilling martinis. As John Mark notes in a 1977 book, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, The CIA and mind control. The CIA's obsession with mind control, the MK Ultra program, had its origins during World War II, when the agency's predecessor, the Office of Strategic Services, set up a truth drug program whose purpose was to discover a substance that would make subjects reveal their secrets. So we have this going on in California, where they're setting up these brothels to monitor people on LSD. We'll get into Dr. Jolin West and his ties with Charles Manson of the time. Shout out to Johnny Pinto, $5 donation through Streamlabs. Very appreciated, buddy. Says, doctor showed up late, but here's a few more shekels to keep you alive. Oh, yeah, definitely. If I don't get the shekels, guys, I'm going to die. Make sure you donate, or I will literally leave the earth tonight. No, seriously, though, anybody that's donating at this time, it's very appreciated. Thank you very much, brother. So this article is called How the CIA Used LSD to Destroy What They're Calling the New Left of the time, but you don't have to really make it political. We'll just kind of go over what was happening at the time. Sometimes facts are buried in these articles that take a political stance, but we're just kind of picking out what we need in this article. Like many activists, I am well aware of the CIA's historic role in the heroin trafficking in Southeast Asia and the cocaine traffic in Latin America. However, prior to reading Drugs as Weapons, I was totally unaware they were responsible for most of the LSD produced between 1955 and 1973. This is the drug culture, the hippie movement. For the specific purpose of neutralizing the New Left in Berkeley, Columbia, other places throughout California. This particular MK Ultra project was conceived in response to the 1962 Rand Corporation study recommending that getting left-wing leaders hooked on LSD could cause them to resign or become inactive. So Haight-Ashbury, again, this neighborhood in California. This guy was particularly horrified to learn about the LSD distribution network MK Ultra agents set up in Haight-Ashbury to lure Berkeley students away from the nationally influential free speech movement. The latter originally formed in 1957 to protest the anti-democratic activities of Senator Joseph McCarthy, communist scares right under the bed. In addition to various MK Ultra scientists and agents, the CIA also relied on a number of high-profile personalities. LSD guru Timothy Leary, an admitted CIA asset, author Ken Casey, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Grateful Dead band members. So we start seeing the connections of them using these popular figures of the time to push this drug culture theme, this free love, and just have as much sex as you want, do as much drugs as you want, everything will be okay because we're all peace and love, man, when these people are working with the government to push that message. So that'll bring us to they call it the LC. I'm going to continue to call it Laurel Canyon. Do not want to be using the LC. So they call it the strange but mostly true story of Laurel Canyon and the birth of the hippie generation. Now, until around 1913, Laurel Canyon remained an undeveloped and unincorporated slice of LA, a pristine wilderness area rich in native flora and fauna. And there's actually some mythologies to what Laurel Canyon and what the word laurel means. We'll get into that a little bit. It's a little, kind of going far out there. Maybe I'm taking LSD. I can tell you about the beauty of Laurel Canyon, but it does have you can kind of wrap yourself up in that. But this pristine area began to change when Charles Spencer Mann and his partners began buying up land along with what would become Laurel Canyon Boulevard, as well as up Lookout Mountain. A narrow road leading up to the crest of Lookout Mountain was carved out, and upon the crest was constructed a lavish 70-room inn with sweeping views of the city below and the Pacific Ocean beyond. The Lookout Inn featured a large ballroom, riding stables, tennis courts, a golf course, among other amenities. But the inn, alas, would only last for a decade. In 1923, it burned down, as tend to happen rather frequently in Laurel Canyon. Now in 1913, man began operating what was billed as the nation's first trackless trolley to ferry tourists and prospective buyers from Sunset Boulevard to what would become the corner of Laurel Canyon Boulevard and Lookout Mountain Avenue. Dubbed the Laurel Tavern, the structure boasted a 2,000 square foot formal dining room, would later be acquired by this guy Tom Mix, after which it would be affectionately known as the Log Cabin. We'll get into the Log Cabin a little bit when we start talking about Frank Zappa living up here. Gonna move a little more when we get into the 40s, 50s, and 60s here. We're still back in 1913, 1925. They really go through the history of this thing. Here's a great picture, an old map of the canyon. Now, before moving on, I need to mention here that of the 80 celebrity residents of Laurel Canyon listed by the association, fully half died under questionable circumstances, and 3 of the 4 did so on days with occult significance. While Bessie Love, Norman Carey, Richard Dix, and Clara Bow all lived long and healthy lives, Ramon Navarro, as we have already seen, was ritually murdered in his home on Laurel Canyon Boulevard on the eve of Halloween, 1968. Nearly a half century earlier, on January 18th, 1923, matinee idol Wallace Reed was found dead in a padded cell at a mental institution to which he had been confined, just 31 years old. Reed's death was attributed to morphine addiction. And they start going through other famous people that lived up there, like Harry Houdini. You're really going back in the day. Now, on Halloween 1959, precisely 33 years after Houdini's death, and 41 years after the unnamed party guest deaths, the distinctive mansion on the corner of Laurel Canyon Boulevard and Willow Glen Road burned to the ground in a fire of mysterious origin. 33 years after Houdini's death. So I'm just going to go through this to see... Okay. So over its lifetime, the studio at Lookout Mountain, ran by the Air Force, the military, produced some 19,000 classified motion pictures, more than all of the Hollywood studios combined. So this military studio that was only used for military propaganda, using famous stars of the time, produced more film than all of the Hollywood studios. Really think about that. That's kind of crazy, man. Which I guess makes Laurel Canyon the real motion picture capital of the world. Officially, the facility was run by the U.S. Air Force and did nothing more nefarious than process AEC footage of atomic and nuclear bomb tests. The studio, however, was clearly equipped to do far more than just process film. There are indications that Lookout Mountain Laboratory had an advanced research and development department that was on the cutting edge of new film technologies. Such technological advances as 3D effects were apparently first developed at Laurel Canyon. And Hollywood luminaries like John Ford, Jimmy Stewart, Howard Hawks, Ronald Reagan, Bing Crosby, Walt Disney, of course, and Marilyn Monroe were given clearance to work at the facility on undisclosed projects and told to never speak about the clandestine studio. So I think that's going to do it for this article. I'm trying to see if there was anything else in here that I really wanted to pull out. But they had people like James Dean. You're talking about the top-level actors. Natalie Wood. She obviously died mysteriously, too, in the boat with Christopher Walken. So you have a lot of people around this Laurel Canyon area. It tends to be a hot spot for this kind of stuff. All right, so we're going to just move on to more stuff about specifically Laurel Canyon, and then we'll kind of dip back and forth between that and the CIA stuff. I love that I posted the video and then, people posted on top of it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm not trying to get notifications out or anything. All right. So we'll kind of get into Jim Morrison real quick specifically. Hope everyone in the chat is doing well. enjoying the ride we're going on here. About 45 minutes in. Got a lot more information to go over. I'm going to have a few videos as well, some more clips and stuff like that. Just kind of getting organized with my links real quick. Let me make sure I have everything pulled up correctly here. All right. Jim Morrison's dad had a hand in starting the Vietnam War. So we already talked about the U.S. Air Force and the military being involved up there. It's fairly well known to the students of pop culture and classic rock aficionados that the father of Doors frontman Jim Morrison was a flag officer in the U.S. Navy. What is not well known is that Captain George Stephen Morrison was the commander of U.S. naval forces at the time of the Gulf of Tonkin incident that gave the Johnson administration the justification they need to enter the Vietnam War. That's right. This guy's behind the Gulf of Tonkin. That's absolutely an insane connection. After graduating with the U.S. Naval Academy's class of 41, George Morrison was sent to Hawaii to join the crew of the mine layer USS Pruitt. He was there on the fateful morning on December 7th when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. We don't have time to get into it. We can't break down the whole Pearl Harbor situation right now. After several combat deployments as a surface warrior officer, Morrison went to flight school. He pinned on his wings of gold in 1944 and flew combat missions in the Pacific for the balance of World War II and also during the Korean War. My grandfather was in the Korean War. So just this strange connection that his father just happens to be involved in the Gulf of Tonkin. United States Navy Rear Admiral, naval aviator. Morrison was the commander of the U.S. Naval Forces in the Gulf of Tonkin during the false flag. This was the incident in August 1964, which sparked the escalation of American involvement of Vietnam War. It was a huge false flag operation. Most of you guys know this. If you don't, the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag operation to really kick off the Vietnam War. And now we're just going to go one by one through some of these other connections that were happening around this time in California. Kind of link some things together. If you guys were here on the last Hangout stream, we talked about Charles Manson, Chaos, and his connections to the CIA. That was a really fun stream. All right. Oh no, gave me an error on one of my links. Just opened it earlier, but I guess it's already gone. So Dr. Jolin West, if you guys remember, we spoke about him last time with, this guy had connections with LSD and Haight-Ashbury, and he was the one that drugged the elephant and killed him. But we'll just talk about that quick. All right, Oklahoma City. August 1962, there was an inexplicable use of a dangerous drug, LSD. There was an experiment, and this elephant died as a result of what can only be seen as both callous and negligence and a tragic blunder. They didn't give a shit. They were just pumping this thing. The man leading the experiment and the effect of lysergic acid, known as both LSD-25 or LSD, or simply in street parlance, acid, on Tusco the elephant, a 7,000-pound bull elephant, was the infamous psychiatrist and CIA collaborator, Dr. Louis Jolin West, or Jolly West they called him. Of course they did. West was then a professor and the head of the Department of Psychiatry, Neurology, and Biobehavioral Sciences at the University of Oklahoma. So this guy was literally being allowed to go run experiments on elephants with LSD. And he was also involved with Charles Manson. He was involved in Haight-Ashbury running these, quote, health centers that they would send people in, to get health care. But when they would get there, they would be given acid and then fucking watched and documented. Okay. So just going through some links here, guys. I just want to make sure I'm going in order. And you guys might remember some of this Dr. Jolin West stuff, but I'll make sure to pull it up so you guys know exactly who it is. I'll get a picture of him. kind of explain the significance from him and Charles Manson. But we covered this before, but I'll just give a quick rundown of it. Just want to make sure I have the right links here. Just bear with me a second. And I'll also pull up an interview with Dave McGowan, the researcher into Laurel Canyon, because he did some of the best work on this. I thought I had his video saved, but I must have removed it earlier for some reason. No worries. It's his most popular interview on the subject, so you can find it pretty easily.
Hello, my name is Michael Parker.
It's on a show called The Antidote with Michael Parker, who also did some research on this. So give me 1 second. We'll be good. All right. Dave McGowan, Laurel Canyon, genuine hippie scene, or dark social engineering? Well, I think we know the answer to that. All right. Dr. Jolyn West. This was the article I had before that they ended up giving me an error on. It was a PDF of some of his projects he was working on. $115 people here. Very nice to see that. It's been really hard to get people over to the channels with them not putting me in the sub feed. So if anybody wants to make sure they're subscribed to the channel, send links out. Very nice of you. I really appreciate it, guys. I think I heard a donation come in, or maybe it was a subscriber. I'm not sure. Okay, it must have been the subscriber. Oh, never mind. Okay, hold on. Cody Pendant with a $10 donation says, dig the content, man. Thanks for the deep dives with a rational perspective. Well, you're kind of new here. I get a little irrational sometimes, but right now we're just chilling. I saw a past stream you used a clip from a Mark Passio presentation. Without much digression, do you have any thoughts on his work you'd share? Thoughts of this Church of Satan in New York? We're going to have to talk about that at a different time. I think Mark Passio gives good information, but you always have to wonder about somebody that was in the Church of Satan. I mean, I think that's a pretty clear thing. I mean, it's hard to trust somebody that was in the Church of Satan, but I think some of his information is obviously really good if you believe his inside information, but just his work on 9/11, The Unholy Feminine, I think was a very good presentation that he gave. If you guys have never seen that, The Unholy Feminine by Mark Passio, I think that was a really good lecture that he gave. But other than that, you know, everyone's got to make up their own mind on certain people. So back to this Dr. Jolyn West. Did the CIA's secret LSD lab turn Charles Manson into a killer? This was a guy that spent 20 years reporting on Manson and his followers. Their grisly crimes lit a flame of paranoia across America. And this was when the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was coming out. And you start getting into what Jolyn West was doing. Dr. L. Jolyn West, or Jolly West, the LSD cult behind the Cult Awareness Network. The Cult Awareness Network bestowed its highest honor on the Leo J. Ryan Award on Dr. Jolyn West in 1989 for extraordinary courage, tenacity, and perseverance in the battle against tyranny over the mind of man. If you guys have never seen the Mind of Men documentary by TruthStream Media, that's the term mind of man. Yet West's entire career has been to manipulate and destroy minds. West is an advisory board member of the American Family Foundation, the mother organization of CAN, and he lectures frequently to CAN conferences. He is held in reverence by CAN supporters and members, and he was a pioneer in the creation of the drug culture. Now, CAN cannot plead ignorance as to who West is. As early as 1977, Dr. West was exposed on the front page of the New York Times as being funded by the CIA to perform LSD experiments as part of the MKUltra project. In his book, In Search for the Manchurian Candidate, John Marks also fingered West as among the pioneers of the LSD and mind control experiments funded by the CIA. So you got this Dr. Jolin West character, kills an elephant with acid. He's involved with Charles Manson. He's involved with a bunch of other people. There was a connection with Ted Kaczynski, Unabomber. We talked about his Harvard experiments he was given. Very odd. Thank you very much, Elle, for sharing my links. For some reason, it wouldn't let me connect to DLive. Don't know what that was about. But it's shit you got to deal with sometimes. Tried to connect through Restream. Would not let me. So we just have to deal with that tonight. But we have been streaming more and more over on DLive because we have to pick up these alternatives. Because with the latest... And it's not just me, guys. I'm not crying about it. Everyone's being suppressed right now. It's a problem. But we have to make sure we're over on these alternatives so everybody can find me if they just decide to leave me one day. Or to make my channel disappear. For some reason, someone's talking about Mersh's birthday. I don't think it's his birthday, guys. But... oh, it's always his birthday. Some of these inside jokes, for some reason, I watch these shows all the time. You know, I'm a huge fan of Nightwitch, huge fan of ROTC. And for some reason, I don't know some of the inside jokes. I really don't. Like, I didn't know the Tim Pool inside joke and made an ass of myself. I was like, why do you guys keep saying they're stealing from Tim Pool, man? I don't get it. And, like, someone was like, oh, dude, it's a joke. Like, we're just saying it. I was like, oh, I was wondering why, like, a bunch of people were commenting on my videos about them taking from Tim Pool. I was like, what are you talking about? And it was funny, man. All right. Hey, Drummer828. Damn, I'm late. Damn, some sub feed. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Shout out to Drummer, made a video earlier talking about the suppression. So hopefully people come over. And you know, it sucks because no one just like searches someone's channel and is just sitting there exactly when you go live. So if they don't put you in the sub feed, you have no way of being seen. You know, you guys found a link or happened across it, which is very cool. I'm very appreciative of it, but you know, it's a weird thing. All right. We shot the shit for a second. We're good. Oh, thanks, Drummer. I appreciate it, buddy. Laurel Canyon, military intelligence family backgrounds of the iconic 60s counterculture rock stars. So this is a guy talking. Now that I'm 5 years deep into my awakening, I finally come to appreciate what a key researcher Dave McGowan was. He died in 2015 at age 55 of a fast-growing pancreatic cancer. RIP to Dave McGowan. He's the one that wrote this whole Laurel Canyon book and kind of put the message out into the zeitgeist. The excuse me, like the pedocracy or the pedophocracy is a term coined by McGowan. It is the title of his book on the subject of pedophilia as an elite characteristic and one of the main tools of control of the visible ruling kakistocracy by the crime syndicate or the cabal. You know, this is a vague term everybody uses. You guys choose who you think's in control of things. I don't like just saying the cabal. He dug into the vast deceptions of 9/11 as well. Most of McGowan's work and interviews can still be found on YouTube. It's slowly going away, though. McGowan interview on Laurel Canyon and the hippie scene. Charles Manson hung out with the Laurel Canyon cadre. So, like, you have connections of Charles Manson hanging around this Laurel Canyon area. Also dealing with Dr. Jolin West, who was known for working and funded by the CIA. And we'll get into a little bit of this video, The Electric Pyramid. This was one of his books he wrote about the thing, Laurel Canyon. In a geographically and socially isolated community known as Laurel Canyon, a heavily wooded, rustic, serene, yet vaguely ominous slice of LA nestled in the hills that separate the LA Basin from the San Fernando Valley. Musicians, singers, and songwriters suddenly begin to gather as though summoned there by some unseen Pied Piper. Within months, the hippie, flower child, peace and love, man movement will be given birth there, along with the new style of music that will provide the soundtrack for the tumultuous second half of the 60s. It was the major record labels, not startup independents, that signed Laurel Canyon's newly formed bands. It was the major labels that provided them with the instruments and amplifiers. It was the major labels that provided them with studio time and session musicians. The bands themselves were initially lacking in skilled musicians and were very manufactured. Well, we hear this all the time. Most of the main music stars and the people that you see on TV are just creations of the system. You know, the beast system just spits them out, lets them have a few years, chews them up, gone. It was the major labels that recorded, mixed, and arranged their albums. It was the major labels that released and then heavily promoted those albums. And so as not to be left out, the corporate titans of all three branches of the mainstream media, print, radio, and television, before online, did their part to help out the titans of the record industry. Thus we see once more that such movements were not organic. Despite being counterculture threats, these band members were never busted for drug charges. Nobody was ever drafted for the Vietnam War. The bands were largely indifferent to the anti-war movement. There were large numbers of strange deaths in this scene. You know, the 27 Club, the young rock star deaths. During the early years of its heyday, Laurel Canyon father figure is the rather eccentric personality known as Frank Zappa. Though he and his various mothers of invention lineups will never attain the commercial success of some of the other bands, Zappa will be a hugely influential figure among his contemporaries. Somehow at 25, Zappa ensconced himself in the adobe dubbed the Log Cabin. Remember we were talking about the Log Cabin up at Laurel Canyon that was once this Laurel Canyon Inn? Well, Frank Zappa stays in the Log Cabin, which sat right in the heart of Laurel Canyon at the crossroads of the Canyon Boulevard and Lookout Mountain Avenue, and would play host to virtually every musician who passes through the canyon in the mid to late 60s. So this is when they start getting together. It's when the scene starts really erupting. Now, the cabin was a cavernous 5-level home that featured a 2,000 square foot living room with 3 massive chandeliers and enormous floor-to-floor ceiling stone fireplace. Let me see how this image shows up for you guys if we get a good look at this thing here. Let me blow this up a little bit. Maybe not. Oh, come on now. I just want to zoom in. Let's not shut the computer down over it. Alright, so you get a good look at this is a very old building, but this is a look at what they call the Log Cabin. I think I have to refresh my stream here. Hopefully we didn't cut out. Let me check the chat real quick. Is everything all good? My chat froze up on me when I tried to zoom in on a picture because that's the computer I'm dealing with right now. Just if any of the mods can let me know that we're good, that'd be cool. I might have to sign back in here. You're live, you're good. Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Waterhead with the $10 super chat. I'm hoping you get this, Doc. Thanks for the dedication and the subject. Takes the edge off. If it gets worse, I will be stuck at work with these mongoloids. I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate it. All right. Well, if we're good, we're good. I can't see my chat on my screen, but that's okay. I can see it on my mobile phone. I don't know what's going on with it. It's just not letting me sign into YouTube. Okay, we're just going to go on. Zappa will also discover and sign numerous acts to his various Laurel Canyon-based record labels, including psychedelic rocker Alice Cooper, who will go on to superstardom. Zappa never really made a secret of the fact that he had nothing but contempt for the hippie culture that he helped create. Alright, so we're going to move on to a couple more things here, see where we're at. I'm going to play a little bit of the Dave McGowan interview about this scene, because he gets a little more into the information.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's amazing how much talent poured out of such a tiny geographic area over such a very short period of time.
It's remarkable. One of the things I was going to ask you, just so people get a grasp of what we're talking about here, I'm going to ask you about a couple of people, and you tell me what their relationship was to these military backgrounds, because some of these people were, I couldn't believe it. Papa John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas.
He was the son of a career Marine Corps officer who also various other members of his family were very closely tied to the military as well. His mother, his older sister, and his first wife were all career Defense Department employees. So, I mean, pretty much his entire family, everyone around him was a career military person, and he himself was initially prepped for a military career. I believe he was a West Point appointee or Annapolis, one of the two. I get confused because so many of these people have such very similar backgrounds. So yeah, his entire family pretty much was from the military background.
So he's just going to tie some loose ends of big stars of the time, musical acts, and their connection to the military. We've already talked about Jim Morrison. We talked about the Naval Academy that had these propaganda films up there. We've talked about the connections of the CIA to the culture. Now you're getting direct ties of musical artists who had family, fathers, close family members in the military.
And not only that, but his first wife was also a direct descendant of
this guy reminds me of somebody that just enjoyed the times back then too. He seemed like he was immersed in the culture, man.
John Adams, the second president of the United States, which is another thing that you will find is some of these people, in addition to having a military or military intelligence background, a lot of them kind of come from what we could call like royal sort of blue blood bloodlines, so to speak. That's another commonality that a lot of these people share.
Well, speaking of blue bloods, the most unlikely person, David Crosby of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and he was in the Byrds as well.
He was in the Byrds.
Talk about David Crosby, because he's an enigmatic character.
Yeah, he was a Byrd, one of the founding members of the Byrds, the original members, and the guy who emerged as the biggest star. I mean, the name that we remember today, most people don't remember Gene Clark and Chris Hillman and even Roger McGuinn, and Gene Clark is and the drummer wasn't Michael Clark. Most of them are, unless you're a real hardcore fan of that era, they're long forgotten. But David Crosby, of course, still lives on as an iconic figure. And like a lot of the people, most of the people who emerged from that scene as the big iconic figures, he has a very curious family background. Yeah, his full name is David Van Cortlandt Crosby. And he is a direct descendant of three interrelated families: the Van Cortlandts, the Van Rensselaer, and the Van Schuyler families. And if you look them up, bounce around Wikipedia for a while, you will find that his family tree includes just people occupying virtually every position of prominence that you can imagine, back to the founding of the country. Revolutionary War generals, Civil War generals, judges, senators, congressmen, governors, just everything short of the president.
Now, some people give pushback on the conspiracy of Laurel Canyon. That's not what Spooky Sunday is about. So I don't really, I'm not going to get into arguing about if you believe it or you don't believe it. We're here to talk about the conspiratorial aspects. We're not here to debunk it. We're here to have fun with it. Now, one of the main pushbacks you get is, oh, well, just because all these people had family in the military or were sons of high-level admirals and, these people that were, chemical warfare specialists and all this stuff. No, the point is that these people ended up being the, quote, counterculture, even though they come from a family that is quite literally the elite establishment. It just doesn't jive. And their argument would be, well, their parents were so strict, they went so against it. I'm much more inclined to the being brought up in the system and pushing and using the counterculture to push their message. Now, he was talking about some members. We can talk about Frank Zappa, again, who was a major figure, who owned the log cabin that these musicians and everybody that came through there had to stay at and talk to. Zappa's father, Francis, also had little regard for the youth culture of the 60s. He was a chemical warfare specialist assigned to the Edgewood Arsenal. Edgewood is the longtime home of America's chemical warfare program. Also, you have Fort Detrick, as well as the facility frequently cited as being deeply enmeshed, I don't like that word, in MK Ultra operations. Curiously enough, Frank Zappa literally grew up at the Edgewood Arsenal, having lived his first 7 years of his life in a military housing on the grounds of the facility. The family later moved to Lancaster, California, near Edwards Air Force Base, where Frank Zappa continued to busy himself with doing classified work for the military intelligence complex. His son, meanwhile, prepped himself to be an icon of the peace and love crowd. Later in life, Zappa went off the rails and spoke frankly about his role as an actor in the charade and provided insights into what was going down in the real world. Like David McGowan, Frank Zappa died of a virulent form of cancer at age 52. Some quotes from Frank Zappa. The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will just take down the scenery, they'll pull back the curtains, they'll move the tables and the chairs out of the way, and you will see the brick wall at the back of the theater. Politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex, Frank Zappa. All right.
Various members of his family have occupied for well over 200 years now. So yeah, definitely a blue blood type of family. And his father, did naval intelligence work during World War II. So
Well, Stephen Stills in the same band was an interesting character as well.
Stephen Stills was actually in Buffalo Springfield.
Yeah,
they were like they were kind of the first two out of the gate, the first two kind of folk rock bands that really set this whole thing off. And
how in schools?
Schools train people to be ignorant with style. They give you the equipment that you need to be a functional ignoramus. American schools do not equip you to deal with things like logic. They don't give you the criteria by which to judge between good and bad in any medium or format. And they prepare you to be a usable victim for a military-industrial complex that needs manpower. As long as you're just smart enough to do a job and just dumb enough to swallow what they feed you, you're going to be all right. But if you go beyond that, you're going to have these grave doubts that give you stomach problems, headaches, make you want to go out and do something else. So I believe that schools mechanically and very specifically try and breed out any hint of creative thought in the kids that are coming up.
And of course, they then later joined forces as Crosby, Stills, and Nash. But Stephen Stills, his father appears to have been some type of a covert operative. He's described in various biographies as a mercenary or soldier of fortune or various euphemisms, and he spent a lot of time bopping around various hot spots in Central and South America where, just happened to be places where we had a lot of covert operations going on, and so Stephen moved around a lot, and to various grew up partially in military bases and military schools in and around Central America.
So you really see this as a common theme pushing throughout this. All of these famous rock stars and influencers of the time. I know that's what they call the worst people on YouTube now, the influencers, but that's what they are. They're the influencers of the time. There's a link to this interview with Dave McGowan. It's a 47-minute interview on a show called The Antidote with Michael Parker. Great interview if you guys want to check that out. Let me make sure what we got here.
It was astonishing, and especially considering that two of the guys had never even ever in their lives even played the instruments that they were assigned to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Chris Hillman, who was by all accounts a virtuoso mandolin player. But he was a mandolin player, and he played it in bluegrass band. I mean, he completely different instrument, completely different style of music. And he's the guy that they draft to be the bass player of the world's very first folk rock band. I mean, the drummer Michael Clark he was a bongo player. It doesn't exactly translate to holding the drumsticks in your hand. And
so this is when you start talking about the creation of bands. And this has happened throughout time immemorial. You can go back to the Tavistock Institute, talking about the Beatles. You talk about, I mean, literally during our time, the creation of boy bands and stuff like this, the creation of these super groups that people think, oh, they must have all known each other. Look, they're all from the same area. They must have grew up together. These people were auditioned to who had the best look, who could be marketed the best. Doesn't matter about their voice, their skills, their talent. It's all about marketing a message to the public. This is all part of the beast system, guys. Now, we don't have a crazy amount of stuff to go through. I think we covered it very well, but we'll kind of just talk about a couple of things here. And this is just a little post with some more people connected around the time. Somebody said, what about Neil Young? I don't think I have anything specific on him, but I'm sure there's, connections. I think I've heard something before, but I want to speak out of school here. So you got Hugh Hefner at the time. Obviously, you got the beta sex programming, MK Ultra, working through Playboy. Hugh Hefner made snuff films with Hunter S. Thompson. This also connected to the Manson murders, the Laurel Canyon death list, which I don't know if we have enough time to get into that, but what's that one movie? I don't want to misspeak. The Laurel Canyon murder, was it Hollywoodland? There's a great unsolved mystery of the Laurel Canyon murders, which will be its own stream. It's a very long topic. But let me just make sure I have the movie correct. I think it was Hollywoodland. Excuse me, guys. The Wonderland murders. If you guys have never heard of these, it's a very fun topic to dive into. It's a whole murder mystery in itself. Like they said, they have the Laurel Canyon death list. It's like the Clinton list. I'll pull that up for you guys. It's a long one. People like Phil Hartman, Saturday Night Live alum, was murdered in his Encino home in May 1998. Brian Cole, Lowell George. I hate when they don't put them in different fonts so you can kind of go through them all, but the list is very long. Jim Morrison, who for a time lived in a home in Rothdale Trail behind the Laurel Canyon Country Store, may or may not have died in Paris on July 3rd, 1971. The events of that day remain shrouded in mystery and rumor. We know about his connections. Like Hendrix, Morrison had been an avid student of the occult, with a particular fondness for the work of Aleister Crowley. I mean, the list goes on and on. That's why I'm saying when we get into the Laurel Canyon murders, it's going to be its own stream. I mean, it's literally like, you got Janis Joplin, you got tons of people to dive into. Now, the Laurel Canyon murders themselves is a house where they say a home invasion happened. It's a very interesting unsolved mystery story, and I'll give you kind of the outline to what happened there. After we talk about some of the more famous people around California, around Laurel Canyon, San Francisco, the popular culture of the time, Steve Brandt, he was a close friend of the victims of the 1050 Cielo Drive, allegedly overdosed on barbiturates in late November of '69, some 3.5 months after the Manson murders. In the days and weeks following those murders, Brandt had placed numerous phone calls to the LAPD. Those calls became increasingly frantic in nature, and Brandt became increasingly fearful that his own life might be in jeopardy. He soon decided to put some distance between himself and LA, so he headed for New York City. On the night of his death, according to Phillips' autobiography, Brandt attended a Rolling Stones concert at Madison Square Garden, where he attempted to run on the stage, but was repelled and beaten by a security guard. He then went home and, according to the official mythology, overdosed. John Denver died in what was a self-piloted plane crash after taking off from Monterey Airport. You got Sonny Bono, Phil Hartman, Brian Cole and his band were the first to take the stage at the Monterey Pop Festival, followed by such Laurel Canyon stalwarts like the Byrds, Buffalo Springfield, the Mamas, and the Papas. 5 years later, on August 2nd, 1972, Cole was found dead in his Los Angeles home. The cause of death was reportedly a heroin overdose. So you see how the drug culture permeates through this thing, and these people, that's, if they don't make it through the music industry, they make it out by overdosing. This is a common thread. Rational says, you just popped up in my sub. Just 72 minutes late. Nothing to worry about. Oh, how nice. Let me check my own phone to see if I pull up. I'll tell you guys right now if that's a true statement or not. I'm not up in the sub feed. Nope. I wish I was, but it's not there, my friend. Don't lie to us, man. Alright, let me see what's going on here. We'll wrap up pretty soon. You have the Church of Satan saying, well, Laurel Canyon is a traffic hell, so it's pretty funny. Make sure I don't have any other links I want to share with you guys before we get here. I mean, the whole Jimi Hendrix saga. I'll give you guys a fun little one that doesn't have much to do with Laurel Canyon, but it does have to do with rock and roll. We'll talk about this, and then I'll let you guys get out of here for the night. But let me just let you guys know, I appreciate you guys being here. I know there's a lot going on right now, so I definitely appreciate you taking your time just to come and have some entertainment. I know I'm not giving you breaking news over on this channel of what's going on with the virus, but it's nice to get away sometimes. If anybody would like to support what I'm doing, and I know during these times it's hard, so nothing is obligated, but if anybody can and would like to support, I'm going to put a link in the chat to my PayPal. Everything's appreciated, nothing's obligated. So just want to mention it, and thank you guys. I'll take care of the links. All right, so this is just a weird little story, and then I'll let you guys get on with your night from here, and we'll be back on the main channel and our other channels to be doing a bunch of streams here. Okay, let me make sure I have this pulled up. This is just a very weird story. If you guys don't know about this one, you might find it funny. Ew. Someone says, where can they send underwear? I think it's P.O. Box, Gig Harbor, Washington. I forgot the exact one. Yeah, it's in Gig Harbor, Washington. I'll get you the P.O. Box. I don't know. I don't know what that was. Rational was sending me a thing saying that I was in his recommended, but he sent me a picture that's not me, so I don't know. I don't know what that is. All right. How Panama's military dictator Manuel Noriega was defeated by rock and roll. Yes, Rational, I just checked Discord. I'm saying when you click subscriptions and look through the list of things, my stream isn't there. It's just not there. And I know what you're saying. In the side thing, you see the little red light to it. I'm saying if someone goes on their computer and goes to subscriptions, I'm not showing up. That's what I'm saying. I appreciate it, but I mean, people aren't seeing it. They're telling me they're not seeing it. If you got a question for me, just tag me. Whatever weird name you have, AJ, screw you. Davey, I got a dead serious question for you. Well, we're kind of just hanging out here, buddy. So let's not get too serious here. All right, so former military dictator Manuel Noriega died on Monday, having spent the last 3 decades of his life shunted between courts and prison cells in America, France, and his native Panama. So this is going to be funny. The American government brought his brutal 6-year regime to an end in December 1989 with the invasion of Panama, codenamed Operation Just 'Cause. But capturing the man himself proved more difficult. It involved one of the strangest operations in military history, revealing an unexpected secret weapon. A quote, sense of humor. The military set aside their guns for Guns N' Roses. Yes, this is a very cheesy article, but it's just kind of funny how they did this, if this is even true, guys. The assault began on December 20th. The Americans dropped more than 400 bombs in 13 hours, while Noriega fled across Panama City in a Hyundai. Well, that's funny in itself. Dashing from one hopeless hideout to another, ducking into a school, a hospital, and even a Dairy Queen fast food restaurant. It was like a nightmare, like falling into a swimming pool, and when you try to reach out for safety for a wall or touch bottom, you suddenly realize that the walls and bottom had fallen away, he wrote in his memoir. He eventually found a place of refuge in the closet of the Vatican. The closest thing the Vatican has to an embassy. The apostolic nomenclature of the Holy See. Noriega camped out in a sparsely furnished room at a Vatican embassy, okay? So they're going to give him some kind of, immunity. He can't be touched while he's in this Vatican. It's just a very weird situation. So the government is asking the Vatican, they're writing them, begging them to refuse Noriega asylum. And the Vatican is saying, well, we took him in. We can't have you coming here. It's just, we're at a stalemate right now. And we're not going to get into what the Vatican is. This is kindergarten stuff. We know what the Vatican is. It's satanic. It's child abuse. It's everything. We know. So help came in the unlikely form of glam rock for Operation Nifty Package. It's just funny names. The extraction of Noriega, special operatives set up enormous speakers around the building, blasting out the local U.S. military radio station, SCN. To begin with, the station mostly played news bulletins interspersed with some music. We told the audience not to use their phone unless it was an emergency or official business. An official report later explained so we could not tie up phone lines. But when things became stranger, we opened the request line on the 21st of December. The station staff recalled. The request became quite imaginative. We played a lot of songs with the word jungle in it. Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses was a particular favorite. Deep in the NSA at George Washington University, you'll find a report from those radio DJs detailing the part they played in the bringing down of a ruthless dictator. On December 27th, someone who identified himself as the member of the PSYOPs team at Fort Bragg called to tell us what they were doing with their loudspeakers. The report reads, PSYOPs needn't have bothered. The station team knew all about it already. The musical standoff had already been covered on the radio and TV news. We had been receiving requests with the musical message for Noriega either by the words or the song title. A few song titles say it all. Nowhere to Run, No Particular Place to Go, Prisoner of Rock and Roll, No Alibis, Bon Jovi, Wanted, Dead or Alive. So they're just blasting these songs out at this little compound that he's in, and he hates it. And like they're just playing it for 12 days straight. Classic rock over and over, these same songs. Welcome to the Jungle, Bon Jovi. I can't play a lot of it, but you guys know what's up. We're not going to get a copyright strike for Bon Jovi. I won't do it. Noriega, an opera lover, was stuck listening to Oingo Boingo. He found his eardrums under the attack of heavy metal acts like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Kiss. Alongside cringeworthy popmongers such as Rick Astley and the New Kids on the Block. They only interrupted this onslaught of rock and pop for one day, Christmas, at the Vatican nonetheless. After 10 days with his ears ringing and a mob gathering outside the gates, the Holy See's representative, Monsignor Jose Sebastian Laboa, told his guest, "You have to go." We don't want to listen to this rock shit anymore, Noriega. You got to get out of here. Noriega agreed. He wrote 2 letters, one to his wife, one to the Pope, thanking him for the hospitality. In full military uniform, he walked through the Vatican's front gates and was immediately tackled to the ground by a posse of U.S. soldiers. So, modern rock not only subverting the culture, but taking care of a ruthless dictator. I just thought that was a funny story to bring you guys. I've never heard that story before. I don't even know if it's true, but it's a very funny story. I thought you guys would appreciate. I don't know. Maybe you don't. I thought it was pretty funny. Now, we are going to wrap up here in a second. Let me make sure I have everything set aside. Make sure I read all the donations if there is any. Check my phone. Conspiracy gave a $10 donation through PayPal, man. Definitely appreciate that. Very helpful at this time. I'm out of work for a couple weeks, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of income coming in over the next couple weeks, which is not the reason I stream, but it's a very nice bonus to streaming. Let me make sure I have everything pulled up here. And it's just very humbling. It's a very nice thing, and it'll help me out in these times, but I obviously understand what's going on right now. It's never expected, always appreciated, and I thank you guys for anybody that does it. Chris just said, I get paid in 2 days. It's very nice. Somebody said apply for benefits. Well, I still have a job, so it's a weird thing to, if you're out of work for 2 weeks, to go through the process of the overloaded unemployment. I'm not unemployed, so it's going to be a weird kind of scenario. If it's going to go on longer than 2 weeks, I may think about something, but I think I'll be okay. Someone said rob banks. That's a good one. Mobtech says he's getting a Corona bonus. Oh, it's very nice. I'm very happy for you guys. Anybody that's making any income during this time, it's a very good time for you, and I'm very happy for you. But there's the link if you want to help out. No big deal. I was lucky that I did my taxes super late, so I still got those coming, so that's pretty decent. And I think I'll be able to pick up some hours here and there, kind of off the books, doing some stuff, so I think I'll be okay. But obviously anything that comes in is appreciated, and I'm going to keep pumping out the streams regardless. It's not about the donations that come in, it's about just having fun and putting out this information and having a good time. So either way, what I'm really upset about is the sub feed thing. I'd really like it if everybody could see that I'm live. That'd be very nice for everybody. All right, let me make sure if I want to share any links with you guys before we get out of here. Give me 1 second here. I thought I came across something, so I want to make sure if I'm correct here. Just opening a link, guys, so give me 1 second. Oh, my bad. I thought it was a stream of somebody that was a friend of the channel, but it's not. All right. If anybody's got any questions, I'm here for a second. No need to extremely leave very fast. So if anybody wants to ask anything. Somebody says, you work for Trader Joe's. Oh, they're talking to someone in the chat. I was like, nope, I do not work for Trader Joe's. We got some funny stuff to talk about over on the main channel, guys. Some real cringe things have been happening. We're not going to mention them here, but trust me, we have some stuff to cover. And then we're going to also have some serious videos. I got some deep dives that have been planned for a while. Still working on the Waco video. Been trying to nail down some interviews for it. Very hard during this time to gather everybody, but I got about 45 minutes of the video edited, and I'm waiting for 2 interviews to do the Waco video. And once I have those tied up, I'll edit that up and send them out. Now, this is episode number 20. We were going to take a break. If I'm still out of work as of next Sunday, we will do Spooky Sunday. If I'm back to work, we'll be taking a 1-week break. We'll be updating the intro. We'll be updating the template and how it looks. So that just all depends on work right now. Just trying to see if anybody has any questions before we get out of here. What did you guys think of the topic, though? Did you guys enjoy Laurel Canyon? How many people knew about this? How many people were aware? Someone says, do you need toilet paper? No, we're able to buy one roll at a time. So I just buy a couple, every time I get a chance. Someone says, "Is this the last you'll be streaming tonight?" Yeah, I think this will be the last stream of the night. We streamed 2 hours on the main channel today. Now we've done another hour and a half over here. That's it's like 1:30 in the morning. So yeah, I think that'll be the last one. I know you're being serious, but I gotta sleep sometimes. And we try to do one Sunday show, Spooky Sunday, every week. And we've also been doing hangout streams over here where I break down a topic, which the topic this week was the CIA and the LSD program, which kind of led me into Laurel Canyon. Also doing the Jared Leto video led me into doing this. So sometimes it just falls like that. Someone says, "Damn, but I assume you're familiar with Dave McGowan. I'm late." Yeah, we went through some Dave McGowan videos for sure. I said, "You're not working, you don't need sleep." Yeah, but I'm streaming my ass off. I'm putting together videos, prepping stuff up, having a good time. If you guys, I'm telling you guys, you probably just haven't seen it. We've been on every channel streaming videos, premieres. They're just not showing up in your sub feed. So I'd click on my channel, go to look for videos. You'll see we've been streaming every day on basically every channel. AJ Screw says, "Hey, he's got serious questions." I don't know what a serious question is, but he wants serious questions. Did you do a Crowley stream yet? I do have one on one of my channels. It's called Occult Symbology, I believe. I don't know what channel it's on though. If it's on my third channel or this channel. Let's see if we can find it real quick so I can share it with you guys. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember. Lateralist says, "I'm getting notifications." No, I'm just going to try to explain it one more time because I'm not trying to be a dick about it. There's notifications which go to about 10 to 15% of the audience. You may get them, you may not get them. Then there's also when you sign into your phone or go to your computer and click subscriptions. That's what I'm not coming up under, and that's the main portion of the audience that just goes, clicks, and sees, "Oh, he's live right now." So that's the main part of not getting viewers. I mean, that's a big chunk of people that just sign on, see somebody's got a new video, see somebody's live. Oh, this is hilarious. I just got a notification. I commented on a Crowder video. He posted a video on his second channel with two people that used to work for him, and I explained why they're not working for him, and now I got people, "What's your source, man? Why would you say something like that?" Like, I think they just quit. I don't think they wanted to work there anymore. Okay, we're looking for my video, right? Stop babbling. We'll check the second channel first. I'm pretty sure it's called, like, Occult Symbology or something. This was a while back we did this. Who knows if it's even gotten pinched by now. I'll just type in occult to see if it comes up. Nope, didn't come up there. It might be on the third channel. Alright, it's not there. I put in symbology and it came up with a stream, Vox Day, Robert Beale, and Maritime Admiralty Law. That was actually a real fun stream. If you guys never saw that. Yeah, now we're totally just fucking around. If you guys didn't see the Jared Leto video, that was kind of funny. And it's none of my channels that are coming up, 2, 3, or this one. And they're all on separate emails, and none of them are showing up in the sub feed. It's so weird, man. I'm going to try symbology first. That didn't show up. Occult. You know what? I don't know where it is. I can try one more thing for you. Might be able to find it this way. There's a chance it might be a hidden video on this channel. I'm not going to find it. I'll find it and post it on Discord or Twitter or something. But yeah, I did a video on Crowley, and we'll do another one on the kind of occult. There'll definitely be a Spooky Sunday. It was actually planned to be the first episode of the second season of Spooky Sunday. I was going to really dive into the occult. So, Anton LaVin, Pan, Aleister Crowley, symbols, how they flood themselves through movies and music. It'll be a whole thing. You guys will enjoy it. So Waco, we got the occult stuff, couple things I'm working on, and then we just got the main channel streams, which are a variety of topics. I've babbled long enough. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the topic, and I hope you guys had a fun little getaway from all the coronavirus coverage. I'm not saying coronavirus coverage is bad, because I do it too, and it's something we should talk about. But it's good to get away, and I hope you guys appreciate and enjoyed the streams. With that said, I am going to get out of here. I will see you on the main channel probably tomorrow. And if you guys want to support the channel, the links are in the chat. Thank you to all my moderators. Thank you to all the loyal watchers of the Spooky Sunday show. This is wrapped up episode 20, Laurel Canyon, Lookout Mountain, and the CIA's infiltration of pop culture. I am your host, Dr. Crocko, and I will see you in the next one.